Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, is finding himself in hot water after his latest comments addressing the Europeans post Davos in discussions with regards to security. He made some serious claims with regards to the defense capabilities of Europeans, specifically focusing on the idea that anyone who thinks that Europeans can defend themselves without the Americans are just dreaming. Now, these words were not taken very nicely by a lot of people and obviously caused a lot of commotion. However, what he was trying to say with these words is that we need to preserve the transatlantic connection and we need to still rely on the US for security. And he just wanted to underscore his role in quenching the desire of Donald Trump to take over Greenland. Firstly, for now is the key point. Secondly, I do not respect Mark Rutte for a lot of things, especially how he is putting himself to be really weak. But then on the other hand, he also is in a lot of pressure. He doesn't want to go out as the last Secretary General of NATO, so at least we can understand him. But the key idea is that I think about is that I don't feel that the old style transatlantic connection is something really there. I think it is pretty dead. What I think should be done is we need to build a new type of transatlantic connection where we are a lot more independently strong and not dependent on just the United States. I was always there for more stronger Europe that is able to protect itself from any kind of threats, and that would allow us to be more independent also on the economic stage. Mark Rutte is sort of pushing us to the old world order where United States was the center of the world, and I don't believe that this is a viable option going forward, as was very precisely debunked by Mark Carney in recent Davos statement. So I think what Mark Rutte is doing is he's trying to fight for some of his vision. And to be honest, I don't really take his words too seriously. He is able to tell them only because a lot of Europeans, even if they want to preserve, like we still have a lot of politicians in our midst that are willing to preserve that old transatlantic connection, and they would like to suck up to Trump. But unfortunately, Trump's rhetoric is becoming so toxic inside of the European states. I'm not saying anything about the US right now, but inside of Europe, the attitude towards Trump is very one-sided, to say the least. So overall, because none of the European states can say it, Mark Rutte is there to humiliate himself and say it for the Europeans. If we want this humiliation train to stop, we need to become more self-reliant in Europe and actually talk with the United States as equals. Funny story, you know how Russians have been stating that they were fighting for Kupiansk, yet actually it was the Ukrainians that cut off Russian access to Kupiansk and have been slowly taking all of the Russians out of the city? Well, Russians in their latest gathering with Gerasimov have proclaimed that they have taken the control of Kupiansk-Uzlovoy. Now, you might don't know the difference between Kupiansk and Kupiansk-Uzlovoy, but let me show you. So, the point of the matter is, Kupiansk, I mean, it's a nice sort of a logistical hub. You can see that there is like a road here, road here, road here, road here. So it's kind of an important logistical. But this is just for the roads. A lot more important is the city here on the south, which is Kupiansk-Vyzlovy, which is even towards the south of Kupiansk. And that city is important because it's a hub like this one for roads, except this one is for railways. So Russians that are reliant on railways would really want to take control of this hub. So Gerasimov, in their latest discussions, stated not just the fact that Russians that are not encircled in Kupiansk, not even the fact that Russians were able to re-establish connection to Kupiansk encircled troops, not even claiming the old things that they are encircling all of the Ukrainians that are supposedly inside Kupiansk. He is stating that they were able not only do all of that, but they also moved even more south and actually already captured the next city of Kupiansk, Uzlovy. So Russian fantastic universe is just getting crazier and crazier and crazier with every day. I think by the end of 2026, we will see Russians literally claiming that they're about to capture Kyiv. I'm not joking, this is getting really insane, especially when Ukrainians are actually putting out videos with proofs of them capturing Russian soldiers in the combats for Kupiansk with videos and everything, and with the proofs of actually capturing these buildings that are geolocated in towns. So no, Russians are very clearly lying, but I think we all know why this is happening. This is because of another round of this negotiations. I'm really getting sick when they're called peace negotiations because they have nothing to do with peace whatsoever. Russians are agreeing to absolutely nothing. There is nothing that is getting out of there except for media quoting Witkoff and Kushner that are continuously claiming that yes, we're about to solve this and so on. It is not happening. Guys, it is so annoying that I need to explain this literally every time because I make a video and then in a couple of days while I make until the next video, there is about 40 different articles from different sources claiming that there is about to be a breakthrough. There is not. It is not happening. Ukraine is trying to achieve something. We already know the things that Ukraine has agreed. It's the 20-point peace plan. Now, it's being claimed here that it's not going to be signed by EU, but EU, to be honest, never was really in doubt. EU was always standing there behind Ukraine, and they're represented by the Ukrainian position. That is already sort of an agreed point. What was always necessary is the backstop with the United States because of the first point, the humiliation of Europe, and that European politicians are just still toddlers that are just afraid to actually walk alone and actually embrace this open and new dangerous world without the support of the big brother United States, which is a shame. But regardless, the 20-point peace plan, we saw this. It was actually pretty nice for Ukraine. Most importantly, it was pretty clear what is the security guarantees and how it would deal things, and that the question of territories, which is supposedly now the quintessential question that is being pushed to Ukraine, is outlined for Ukraine that Ukraine, after United States, will guarantee that there is going to be a ceasefire for like a month or so Ukrainians can prepare a referendum. Then all of the population of Ukraine can vote on the referendum what will happen with the territories. I can already tell you right now, no one is gonna vote for these territories to go away. These are the most fortified positions in Ukraine, and Ukrainians are not giving away any land whatsoever. So that was what was written. And if that is implemented, that is actually relatively acceptable for Ukraine. Now, I don't say it is good for us. I still think that any kind of end of this war without Russia actually being prosecuted, without Russia paying for the atrocities they're committed, is going to end up in a worse world order compared to what we had before. But we are where we are, you know, guys. But the main part is that 20-point peace plan is the deal that was proposed to you by Ukrainians. It was verified by Ukrainians, and it will not go into force. Ukraine will never agree to a bad deal. People in charge of Ukraine are very competent. And the most important thing that I want to underscore is that despite what you hear in media, Ukraine on the front line is doing much better compared to a lot of things. Russia is doing a lot of terror campaigns. There is outages of heating, electricity inside of Ukrainian cities. There is a lot of pressure on civilians, true. But Ukrainian military comparatively is doing much better than it was doing before. Especially now with the upcoming reforms, we might see even better performance. People, when they say that, the recent argument that I've heard, which absolutely cracked me up, was that Ukrainians are actually doing bad because Ukrainians are able to send only something like 100 drones towards Russia every night. It is absolutely hilarious in what kind of pretzels these propagandists need to twist themselves to try to say that no, Ukraine is not getting stronger, that the country that started with literally no long-range capabilities of striking anything in Russia is now constantly, daily, is destroying targets inside of Russia, deep targets, hundreds and thousands of kilometers, that the country that supposedly is being absolutely crushed is able to maintain 7-1, 10-1, and in some areas over 20-1 ratios of losses ratio. So unless you really want to believe some of the Russian propagandists and the narratives that media is painting, then you know for the fact that Ukraine on the front line is not doing that bad to agree to any kind of a bad deal. And if we hear from what is being stated by the new team that is coming to reform the military, they are definitely looking for possibilities, if nothing else happens, if no diplomatic solution comes, to actually crush the Russians over time. And then talking about doing things too little too late. So group of European states issued a joint warning to Russian shadow fleet. It's a very interesting one. Obviously I am mad that over 3 years in this war, we're still talking about, is it like almost 4 years, right, in this war? Almost 4 years into this war, we are now still discussing how to stop Russia from trading. Embargo that country. That country must not trade. It's a danger to us all. Can we at least realize that? And unfortunately, we're still trying to walk around these weird laws. So basically what it is, I actually found the actual text, and this is sort of stopping the trade and movement of these ships as as bureaucratic as possible. Basically, what it outlines that a lot of these ships need to follow very specific guidelines. Like there should be all of the certificates, there should be all of the training, there should be all of the regulations, and so on, and so on, and so on. So what this will effectively allow, if there is any suspicion for any of the ship that is passing through the waters of these 14 countries, then technically they will have the legal right to stop and kind of do all of these procedures to delay these ships, as effectively really damaging the ability of Russians to trade effectively by using their fleet. By using what European Union is doing the best, I think, is the bureaucratic procedures. It is actually hilarious that bureaucracy is being used as a weapon here. I'm not sure if you noticed this, guys, but something crazy started happening to media in English. It is like suddenly they realized that Russian military is garbage and it should be reported as garbage. I've noticed, like, this is an article from the Kyiv Post, but I noticed similar articles appearing also in the other ones. And it describes the conditions that are in the Russian military, and more importantly, the way that Russia is trying to get people to sign up for their military. Specifically, this article talks into how Russia is trying to get the regular conscripts that supposedly, as it's stated here, by Russian law, which is an oxymoron by itself, a conscript may not be deployed outside Russia for service in combat, while a contracted soldier must go wherever he is ordered, including into combat in Ukraine, should military leadership see a need. And therefore, inside of Russia, they created this system of trying to move the people that are getting these regular conscripts, like 19-year-old guys, that are being pressured. A system of moral oppression has effectively been established, including constant psychological pressure, shouting, threats, humiliation, rude and obscene language, waking up in the middle of the night during lights out, when we were deliberately waking for pressure, conversations and explanations depriving us of sleep, and the creation of an atmosphere of constant fear for our health and safety. So this is basically the psychological pressure, but there is also physical pressure that is being applied to a lot of these conscripts. So for me, as a person that for 4 years have been stating how bad the Russian military is and how poor the conditions inside it, it's actually quite liberating to see that finally it seemingly is getting caught up also in some other English-speaking media, so they recognize that no, Russian military is not a good place and it only is able to function because of the certain quote-unquote fear culture and ability to use that fear culture. As you know, guys, in the last year I have been following very closely to developments in the drone industry, and specifically I was interested in one technology, which is the acoustic detection. Now we have a new presentation for detection of FPV drones. It's a system that is able to detect drones some 150 to 450 meters away in a round radius. Now, this is very nice to see that it is developed. It is a prototype, well, potentially already a scalable prototype, but this opens a gate for a lot of new areas, mostly specifically detection of drones, and something like proximity detonators could also work with this, some kind of a homing missile drones and so on, like a self-homing drones. It definitely has a lot of wide applications in the future that they can be using in this drone tech. And talking about drones, I want to finish on the drone discussion altogether. And this is my pet peeve that I just want to share. Because Ukraine holds the German HX-2 drone orders after battlefield failures. This is drones developed by the European drone unicorn Helsing that has been basically a lovebird of a lot of military shows. It is the technology and drone company of the future that is, as you can see, like, look how slick and sexy and amazing they are. However, this is the same technology that also was heavily criticized by Ukrainians. Specifically, by the way, by no other than Mikhailo Fedorov, the person that is now the Minister of Defense. And I am absolutely not surprised that there is now a statement coming that there will not be new drone purchases with Helsing for this specific drone types and potentially other drone types. Specifically, in one of his appearances on Brave One, Mikhailo Fedorov talked extensively about the fact that when you go and see these exhibitions in US or in Europe, you will see all of these fancy drone companies that are presenting their technology. Yet when you come back to Ukraine and then you go to the battlefield, you see who are the people that are doing the actual work. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Please continue participate in our fundraiser. I will have a very special update coming for you very soon. And trust in Ukraine, support Ukrainian armed forces. I love you, Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.